todos aqueles que pensavam que já nos tínhamos ido embora, mas afinal voltámos aqui para este momento extra. Plus.
Do nosso espontâneo X.
Ou seja, nós já estamos a falar após o espontâneo ter terminado, mas resolvemos que poderíamos ainda
dar mais um pouquinho.
Ou seja, já fechámos isto a 7 chaves, todas elas de ouro, e dissemos assim, está ali, vamos mais uma chave de ouro.
Só mais uma chave.
E é por isso que estamos aqui reunidos, Ricardo Soares, Nuno Fradique, aqui neste T0.
Marco Graça.
E eu no meu T3, sozinho, aqui à vontade para poder fazer o que eu quiser. Bom, porquê este extra? A razão é muito simples.
É simples, é muito simples.
Nós tivemos ao longo de todo o espontâneo este segmento chamado FUSÍVEL, no qual nós convidámos pessoas de diversas áreas do mundo da improvisação e não só. Foram 6 conversas absolutamente imperdíveis que estão disponíveis no site. Poderão vê-las quando quiserem. Podem vê-las, por exemplo, no verão. Agora vão de férias, quando chegar aí agosto, vão de férias e como é que estou ali na praia, o que é que eu faço?
Vou uma conversa. Podem ouvir com headphones, porque é uma conversa, portanto é mais fácil.
Tu ouves conversas de headphone?
É o melhor aos podcasts.
Põe o vídeo nos fones.
É o chamado podcast.
E para além desses conteúdos, todos os conteúdos que nós produzimos aqui no Espontâneo estão disponíveis no site, sejam eles os espetáculos ao vivo, sejam eles os espetáculos que foram de edições anteriores.
E esses espetáculos, muitos deles são comentados, ou seja, falamos com os intervenientes do espetáculo e depois vamos assistir ao espetáculo. Neste momento
já foram todos. Já foram todos. Tivemos uma conversa extraordinária com 3 convidados sobre o espetáculo Multiverso, que foi o último espetáculo do qual falámos. Achamos nós, porque nós, na verdade, estamos a gravar isto, ainda o espontâneo não acabou. Esta é que é a verdade. É a ilusão da televisão.
E a esta hora, estamos no horário...
Exatamente. Porquê? Porque nós estamos num horário absolutamente proibitivo para transmitir isto ao vivo no dia em que estamos a gravar. Em Portugal são, neste momento, 2 e pouco da manhã, 2 e 7, 2 e 10 da manhã.
2 e 7, 8.
2 e 8 da manhã e a convidada com a qual vamos falar está num fuso horário que, se nós começássemos a cavar um buraco aqui, chegaríamos precisamente onde ela está, que é na Austrália, onde são, neste momento, 11 da manhã. Ora, não seria possível gravar isto ao vivo no horário em que tivessem pessoas acordadas em Portugal ou que tivessem pessoas acordadas na Austrália.
Exatamente.
E então daí estarmos neste falseado de fazer de conta. Isto não acabou, para nós o espontâneo ainda falta algum tempo para acabar. Mas não vamos perder muito mais tempo.
Quem é o convidado?
É a convidada.
Vamos levantar o véu.
Agora não é preciso levantar o véu. Vou já avisar. O nome desta convidada é absolutamente incontornável no mundo da improvisação. Nós tomámos muito cedo contacto com o nome dela e fizemos de tudo para a trazer a Portugal. E isso aconteceu já nos idos 2000 e eu penso que ela esteve cá em 2015 a primeira vez e depois voltou uma segunda vez para o Espontâneo 2016. É um nome que não vale a pena estar a fazer grandes apresentações. Nós vamos também ficar a saber muito mais sobre a nossa convidada, mas é com uma enorme honra que nós, uma companhia que ainda ontem começou, éramos jovens rapazes, poder partilhar não só o palco, como agora este éter da internet, com um dos maiores nomes da improvisação mundial. Ladies and gentlemen, we are proud to announce our guest. It is Patti Stiles! Hello! Hi, Patti.
How is it your coffee this morning?
I'm having a lovely cup of tea. I've had my coffee, now I'm having a tea.
You're having breakfast and we are having the last whiskey to go to bed.
Oh, nice.
No, it's water, by the way.
It is so lovely to see you. I wish I could be there.
And you will be for sure when the world gets back to where
Normal.
it was. Let's hope. Patti, thank you so much for accepting the invitation to be here, to be part of this festival, to not only giving the masterclass, but also sharing with us this, let's hope not too long, but not too short minutes, speaking about you, your work, and I will start with the first question, which is, let's go back in time, and where did it all start? Patti?
What?
Do you remember? Let's go to the young Patti Stiles, who was born in Canada. I hope I'm not making a mistake here. Yes, I'm making a mistake. Yes, of course I'm making it. It's 2 a.m. You were not born in Canada. Let's start there.
No, I was actually born in the USA.
We didn't know that. I thought you were born in Canada. So let's go back to the USA. The small Patti Stiles. When did it all start? When was your first appeal to the theater? If you had that appeal as a young Patti Stiles.
I think I always knew that I wanted to be in theater.
Okay.
Because I was always really interested in storytelling. And I think the reason for that is my father was a great storyteller. And the way he told his story, he could just hold a room. And he could deliver the story, and then there'd be a pause, and then the punchline. And all the adults would just be released in this great joy. and he would have a sparkle in his eyes as he did it. And just watching the adults have that kind of sense of play, I'm a kid watching them. And I think that was my first realization of the power of stories and how it can bring joy to people.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And so then you make in school you make a choice to go to theater, to drama school, or somehow it was not a choice. Was it, or was it not a choice?
When I was a kid, I did the drama productions. Even in my daycare, I think I was 3 or 4 years old, maybe 4, and there's a picture of me and 2 boys, and we were singing Three Blind Mice in Spanish. I wish I could remember it. I did ballet, I did tap, I twirled batons, I was in parades. So there was always an element of kind of performance-related activities in my life. Mm-hmm. But as a child, I just remember always creating stories. Everything was stories. And when I'd be playing with kids in the neighborhood, I could visualize the environments. So if we were, playing adventurers, I could visualize what we were wearing. And sometimes I felt a little different than other kids because they would play the activity, but I would feel like I was living the activity.
Exactly.
And then when I was in school and I was thinking about what I might do for a living, I knew I really wanted it to be in the performing arts. It just made sense to me. But I didn't know how to get started. So in high school, I was asking questions to all my teachers, what do I do? How do you start in acting? And nobody really seemed to know. People just kept saying, oh, go to university.
Of course.
And I thought, well, okay, but you're saying that for people who want to be doctors, who want to be lawyers, everybody just go to university. at the same time, I was reading autobiographies of famous Hollywood actors. Very few of them went to university.
Yeah.
Right? They went to acting schools, or they went and saw an agent, or they went to an audition. They actually started doing the work.
Yeah. That's the way.
And I'm not putting down universities. I think that's a valid approach for some people. But for me, sitting in a classroom learning, in contrast to actually creating, I wanted to do. So there was a program called Work Experience where you could say, I want to go in this profession. And they would find a company in that profession. And you would do a term of classes going and working at that company.
Mm-hmm.
So I signed up, and one of the companies that had their name in the program was the Loose Moose Theater Company.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, the improv gods completely intervened. I was placed at Loose Moose. Within a week, I just went, this is what I want.
Yeah. This is it. Yeah.
What was the biggest impact? Because I think it was the first time you got in touch with improvisation. What do you think it was the impact that touched you inside and said, "This is it. This is my thing. This is my zone. My." Do you remember the first? Because I'm asking this because I still have the first impression when I did the first conscious improvised scene, and it's like I'm actually doing this because improv is very. It's in the moment. You have a immediate reaction from who's watching. You have your reaction to be in the moment, and there is some kind of strange connection which I cannot name it. But you say, somehow this is what I was searching for.
I think for me, I started a little bit different because I was doing the work experience program. I was working at the company, but I was doing concession, taking tickets. I was going through old publicity material and filing it. So I was reading the stories and the history of the company. I was helping make props. I was helping to run lights. So I was in a position of watching how it was being created, what they were creating, but I wasn't learning how to do it. So I came in as an observer to the world. And I was so inspired by the work that was being done on stage, how the audience and the actors interconnected and related, that it was just alive. It wasn't the audience falling asleep and a well-crafted show being ignored. There was something visceral and magnetic that was happening.
Yeah.
But also in the rehearsals, there would be this sense of play and respect and freedom of creativity. And the improvisers would be sharing ideas and listening to each other and trying and exploring. It wasn't an intellectual process of, well, no, let's think about that. It was, let's try it, let's do it, let's see. And I really liked that. There was such a joy and freedom and trust and permission in the work. So all of that, I was hooked. I was just captured. But I didn't know if I could do it. I was just falling in love with what was being done. And then one day I was getting ready to make the popcorn. And every Sunday night before theater sports, there would be a class that the company would do. And so I was getting ready to make popcorn, and Dennis Cahill came out and said, "Patti, do you want to come into the class tonight?" And I was like,
Oh, yeah. It's me.
sure. And so my first improv class was with all these people who were, like, in my mind, experts. There was no beginner intermediate experience. There was a company, and the company worked together. And the experienced players just knew that this was my first time, and that's okay. And we didn't go through a system of you learn this and you learn this and this. Tonight we're working on this. We all work on it together. Let's see what you bring.
Yeah. As an equal, yeah.
As an equal. A recognition that I had a different skill, but as an equal, as a person, I was an equal, and I just had my skill level that needed to be developed.
Exactly.
There wasn't the status structure of, you know, but I mean, I'm in the room with the people who created theater sports with Keith.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I have no idea how this magic works. Ah! And they're like, come on up, we're going to do a scene. I don't know how to do this. You know? And that's a very different beginning to a lot of people who find a company via a website and they book in for the beginning class and they do X amount of classes, which is fine. I just feel very fortunate I had a different way of starting because I think it helped me learn the work differently. I have a different viewpoint on the work. And I think that shows in how I work and what I like to do.
I'm going to share something with you because we are in a process that I think it's similar. Really fast, we are 4 guys. We started as usual. We were 12, and we had men and women here. But somehow we ended up 4 guys, and then in the last years we've been saying because we tell stories, you create stories, and somehow we said, listen, we are creating stories that have this point of view of men. And we wanted to put some different input on the way we tell things. We tell the stories, we create the stories. So we invited this amazing actress. She's a classic theater actress. And she's very, very, very perfectionist about her work as an actress. And she's been following us. We have done things together. But she would not improvise. She didn't have the tools. But you know, look at her and you say, you have the instinct. There's something in you that's kind of natural. And I remember saying to her, because she's a perfectionist, she's always so afraid of improvising or doing things without knowing what's going to happen. And this is the thought I wanted to share with you about what you were saying, that somehow in improv, we can start by the roof, and then you build the house in a strange way where you then get to the structure of the house. But you start by the roof. You can start by the roof, which means you can go, you can try, you can feel it, and then you will feel the need to build the rest of the house. Yeah. You're not building the rest of the house and then you put the roof on and the house is done. I said, let's start with the roof. We go, we do, and then every time you have a doubt, every time you feel kind of lost, we can add some information. We can share some tools that it might work with you to create the scene and develop the scene, instead of just doing a lecture about yes and not blocking and all the things improvisers go through. But we kind of started from that. It's a more natural, I don't know, I think it's a more natural way. Of course, it's not a school and it's a different way to start, but I think it was the way of breaking the fear of being on stage and not doing what.
But there's the thing, there's the key thing. The first thing we learn, or the first thing we need to work on when we improvise, is removing the fear.
Yeah. Exactly, yeah.
That's it, right? And a lot of impro schools have an approach that's all about systems and rules and structures and curriculums. And, you know, there is logic in that. And I get that if you're building a program, you want to have a follow through for students and you want to be able to think through what you're teaching and make sure all the teachers are doing the similar thing. But I have yet to see on any curriculum, step one, remove the fear.
Yeah.
Yep. Patti, let me get back just a bit back because you said so many things that I would like to go on it. But it's like a curiosity. Do you feel like making part of this improvisation beginnings? I kind of compare to the first surrealists or the first whatever that we don't know if they know what are they doing in the importance that they had of starting the thing. How is it to be in that role? Because
the pioneer.
To be a pioneer, how is it? And do we feel, or do you feel as a pioneer, or just when you look back, I just had to do it. It's not like being pioneer. I just had to do it, and it end up to be
to start the movement.
Yeah, I do think that the impro community right now suffers from we want to be perfect, and so a lot of impro companies and people, their objective is to be good. Their objective isn't to explore, to create, to challenge, to try. Where the original groups, and I'm talking more now from kind of a modern day improvisation, because improvisation has been around since there's been humans, because we all pretend, and pretend is improvisation. Conversation is improvisation.
Yeah, telling stories. It's
yeah, and when you look at the great traditions of storytelling, you know, in Celtic folklore,
Commedia dell'arte.
Absolutely. So right now, you know, we tend to define the schools by the work of Johnstone, Close, and Spolin. But there's a lot of great teachers in other countries and in other languages. There's great traditions in a lot of countries about improvisation. But when I look at, for example, the students at Spolin, or her work and what she was exploring, and you read her writing, she's going, okay, how do I free people up? How do I help them to imagine? How do I help them to be open? She's not saying, how do I get them to be good? How do I get them to repeat this consistently? How do I achieve perfection? That's not in her work. When you look at the examples of Del Close working with students, he's doing the same thing. How do I get you to be free with your imagination, to not worry about right or wrong? How do I get you to use what's there and see, to be brave enough to step into what comes next?
What happens?
The systems around Del's work, Del didn't create that, other people did. Right? Same with Keith. When you look at Keith's writing, you know, or his quotes, even things like he'd say, you know, if it wasn't for fear, I'd have nothing to teach you. Right? Because all of them were trying to get students to not worry about failure, to release the fear, to get into that creative zone, to simply just try, to see, to discover the results and learn. But now we've got a lot of impro technique that's trying to stop the exploration So it's minimizing the process because people want product.
Results. Yeah.
Yeah. And that was not the early drivers of the work.
Why do you think it's happening that?
Ego and money.
Okay. Yeah, I kind of figure out that was the answer. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's the same thing that happens with a lot of art forms. So, if you look, for example, at the Impressionists or, different forms of music, when it first arrives, there's this, that's not very good.
Yeah.
And then it gets a following, and everybody goes, oh, it's the new thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Then it gets a lot of people involved, and then people go, oh, this new thing has followers. This new thing has interest. So I want to be an expert in this new thing so that I can have that. But the exploration is lost. So there's a lot of improvisers who are improvisers because they're really curious about the work. What can we explore? What stories can we tell? How do we move the audience? How do we work together? What are the possibilities of pretend?
Yeah.
And then there's a lot of improvisers who go, I enjoy doing this. This makes me feel good. I like getting applause. And those are two very different worlds.
I feel there's a thing about being like a pioneer. Some people say that you were right out of your time. You were right, but out of your time. And some say that if you are right out of your time, you are wrong, because when you are right, you have to be on your time. But I feel like people that could be an excuse, like to I want the maximum result because I want to be right in my time, not like to be a pioneer and not understood at my time, and then 50 years after, he was years ago. Yeah, now he's dead. It's, maybe that's an issue.
Absolutely. And look, I really support if people want to create or do whatever they want to do, fine. Those are your choices as an artist. So if what motivates you is to do a show that's going to be consistently good, and good meaning however you define good, right? But if your goal is success, fine, that's your goal. Do your deal. But for me, my goal is the possibilities of the work.
Yeah, completely.
To explore and create new things.
Yeah, and so for me, good is how does the audience react and respond from this moment of inspiration that happens between the audience and the improvisers.
That's the thing, yeah.
And then if the audience leaves and they have impressions of the show for days, weeks, months to come, that to me starts living in the world of good.
And Patti, then you were in the loose. You tried it. You tried that lesson, and then you start doing it for let's say for real. Like I want to keep doing it, and it's something very curious about when you start. We had a few conversations with other guests, and one of the things that it comes often is that. You try once, and improvisation is as this thing. You try once, it works for you, feel somehow comfortable because improvisation is very democratic. It's open to anyone who wants to try. It's not a closed door to anyone.
And you try and you be addicted.
And then it kind of becomes, I want more. I want more.
I want more of this sensation, this involvement.
Was this a thing for you? Did it fed up with you? Like, did it feed you this? I want more. I want to be able to have a voice and to find a voice, because when you start, you don't have a voice. You're there, you exist. But then for us, it was like this. At a certain point, we started as every improv company starts. And then from a certain point on, you said, we go on stage and we need to be ourselves because, like you were saying, the predictability of some kind of shows in improv, they work very well with the audience. You know the result, and but then at a certain point you say, I'm creating a pattern, and this is not supposed to have patterns. We need to not only find the voice, and by finding that voice, breaking the pattern. I know we are taking a leap here, but did you, after those lessons, after you be there, did this start to be an issue for you? Was that voice inside of you, I can add more to this, or I can add improv to my own voice?
Again, it's funny because I sometimes feel like an alien in the improv community. There's a common experience that most people have where they go and they take a class and they have that evolution that you've just described. But the system at the Loose Moose Theater, in particular at that time, was different. So, yeah, anybody can do an improv class, but not everybody was invited into the company workshop.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
So, before I was invited in, there was a period of time where I was at the company and I got to know people and people got to know me. And so, because you're working as an ensemble and
to
you
be
want to
part
have
of the
people in
group,
that, yeah, and you want that trust. You want people who have similar creative objectives, who are going to be pleasurable to work with, who you can connect with. So by being invited in, I was already given a huge leap of faith. They basically said, we trust you and we want to work with you.
Yeah. I think I feel this.
So that's at a different place than a beginning class where everybody's trying to figure out, are they okay?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Also, the Loose Moose Theater, we did improvisation. We played theater sports. We also did children's theater that was developed through improvisation. We did scripted plays, and we used improvisation in rehearsal, and then we used improvisation within how we worked on the scripted play to keep it alive on stage. We wrote sketch, we did parades, we did mask, we did clown.
Yeah.
It was an active theater company. So we were constantly being challenged. What is the point of this play? And even in theater sports, Keith would say, well, will anybody remember anything from tonight? No, they laughed, fine, but there was no voice.
Mm-hmm.
Don't you have opinions? Don't you care about what's happening in politics? Don't you care about what's happening in the world? Why was none of that reflected on stage? So I was very early on being challenged. What's your artistic voice? I wasn't going on stage because it was fun. If you're going on stage, you're going on stage to create something for the audience. It's a privilege to be on stage. But we have a duty as artists when we are on stage. So what voice are we representing? What stories are we telling? And why? So that happened very early for me. I didn't go through impro is fun, now what's the point? I was being challenged with what's the point before I even went on stage.
Mm-hmm. But for us, it was really a different process. Just because, for example, here in Portugal, we didn't have no school. The first time it all started, but I was very curious about it.
No school at all.
No, there was
no references.
no references on improvisation.
Because one thing, me and you, when we started, we did not improv, but we do some that we call it in Portugal animations, performances that we
were improvising, not being conscious.
Exactly. Not with the technique.
We were improvising. It was, but then I saw in Spain they had teachers, they had schools, so I went there and with my terrible Spanish, I just said, no, let's bring the teacher here to Portugal and let's start something. We were not the first ones to start, of course, but when you start with so few tools, you kind of teach yourself. You learn from a teacher, but then you teach yourself, and then you go and research, and you buy books, and you read books, and then you learn by doing it. So for us, it really came later, because if improv was a wild beast, we were still trying to figure out to dominate that wild beast. Kind of a metaphor. Because it was way too big for us, and we were trying to grab our hands, to put our hands all over it and try to understand it. But the thing was, we were having effect on people with what we were doing. We were doing theater sports shows, and we were having effect on people. And for us, that would fulfill our
on that moment
it was fulfilling our needs as actors, as improvisers. We are having fun, we are feeding the people, and the people are feeding us with laughter. But then at a certain point, years pass by, teachers come, different views, different approaches, and then we had kind of this discussion inside. We need to add more to what we are doing, because at a certain point you had a wonderful show, but somehow in your mind you're kind of bored, because it sounded exactly like it was yesterday and the day before. The audience is laughing and we are having fun, but it's a huge universe. We can do so many things with this. So for us, this was the process.
And then we start to find our voice, our way to do it, and
which is an amazing. We're still doing it. We're still doing it. Which is an amazing road when you go and search for that, for your voice.
Absolutely. I think there are, though, like at that point that you hit, I think there's like a fork in the road, and some improvisers get to that point and all they wanted was to make the audience laugh and to feel good and have fun.
Mm-hmm.
And for them, that's enough. And that's fine.
Yeah.
That's what they want to do. But then there's other improvisers who go, no, what are the possibilities? Exactly. What can I explore? What can I say? How can I craft this? Yeah. And they keep wanting to discover. And this is where we start getting
the difference.
A lot of differences.
What can I add more or experience more? Yeah.
A bit ago, you told us about Keith. I think it was Keith, yeah. That said to you, what about what happened tonight? What happened in the last month, political or something? What about? I didn't saw that on the show. Do you feel like because this is a discussion that we're having and we have? It's not that it's not solved because it's almost solved, but we still have this discussion about being political during an improv show, having a political engagement, a certain political engagement or other engagement. Can be political, can be other ethical. Do you find it possible, or it's not the way? We should just represent what the audience gives us to represent, and not to give our share.
That's a great question. I think as an artist and as a group of artists, you need to question why you're on stage and why you want to be on stage. Mm-hmm. And that starts helping to answer the questions. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I would like to try if possible, to make the world a better place. And storytelling is a great opportunity to reflect and question and evaluate how we are as humans, how we relate, how we react, how we treat each other. And that's from two people buying a coffee at a coffee shop to two world leaders, right?
Yeah.
It's how people react and relate. But I have to be aware that if I'm going to do something that has a political point of view or a point of view on society, am I trying to convince people to think the way I think?
Exactly.
Or
That's the point.
Or am I trying to raise issues that they go away and think and talk about?
Yeah. Making questions, not giving the answers.
Yeah.
And in making questions, your characters might need to feel like they know all the answers. And then you've got someone who has a different point of view.
Exactly.
So I don't find soapboxing, like standing up and saying, here's how to think.
Yeah.
I don't find that useful.
Yeah.
But being able to present a story or an issue from a different point of view.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I mean, if you look at Monty Python, a lot of Monty Python's work is political and social activism.
Completely.
They're making a lot of statements on the class structure, on religion, on
Exactly.
it's pretty obvious.
Yeah.
But nobody really looks at it as political or social activism because it was funny.
Yeah. Exactly.
But there's some really strong points of view there.
Yeah. Exactly.
So if you want to do that kind of work, which I think is exciting work, but that's me, then you need to do the research and explore and experiment and be honest in your advertising. Right. So if you say, hey, this is an improv comedy show at the pub, it's going to be really funny, and then you start hitting them with political points of view and stories about refugees, you're going to piss your audience off because they didn't come for that.
Exactly.
But if you're doing an improv storytelling show or theatrical improvisation, or you call it spontaneous theater, or however you define it, to give yourself permission, and you're in an environment like a theater space, which, in the consciousness of the audience gives permission.
Yeah, exactly.
Then why not explore? Why not try to make the world a better place?
Yeah.
We really tried. There was a change for us, for just to share. Also, our experience. We were doing theater sports for the first, 3 years, more or less, and then we slowly. It was not really that conscious, but we slowly start our scenes in the game start getting longer and longer and longer, and then we somehow felt, I don't even want to play the game anymore. It doesn't fit to have the game here. But I'm kind of deceiving the audience because you explain the game, you propose yourself to play the game, and then in the end, no one is playing the game because we kind of started to be more
and the audience
interested.
gets bored.
We started to be more
To tell the
interested
story,
to
yeah.
tell the story.
Yeah.
And the game kind of kept being in the way of the story. So we went from this phase of playing theater sports, and then slowly, because it's not easy to change and it's gradual, we start leaving behind and we start doing the more longest forms of improvisation. And then we start noting something very curious. Almost all the audience from theater sports start not appearing at our shows. And the audience started to change. We had a completely different audience coming to the shows. And for us, it was quite a change because we were used to the party side of the theater sports. But then we realized we were just not having fun with the audience. We were having more fun with one another. on stage. So you kind of reduce the party on the audience, but you increase a lot what is happening on stage. I don't know if this somehow connects to your experience as well, but the connection on stage for us right now is kind of more important than the reaction, the immediate reaction of the audience, because it gives more to the audience in the end. We think that they saw these guys having fun, completely focused on telling a story, on the creative process of telling that story, and it's kind of like it's just the four of us, like kids playing for 45 minutes, and then we come back to the audience again when it's finished. I don't know if it connects or not, but this is our experience right now.
Yeah, a couple of things. So first, with theater sports, there's a lot of different ways people play theater sports. And some of those approaches are not in alignment with the original vision of the show. So, for example, we would use games for variety between scenes. When we played theater sports, it wasn't game. And sometimes we would use games without even telling the audience. So the games would be a kicker or a flavor or a variation in playing a scene.
Only for you.
Yeah, so a lot of the games, especially Keith's games, and I say especially Keith's games just because I know more in depth his work. The games were ways of training actors to be more available in the scenes. So you can use a lot of them as acting technique to keep you present, to develop characters, to enrich the storytelling. It doesn't have to be set up as a game to use it. And we would also be playing the show with a real eye on variety. So if there was a 1 minute scene, then you'd do a longer scene. If you just had a long scene, you'd look for something short. If you had 4 people on stage, you'd do something with 2. So we weren't just going to play game after game after game. We were also going, what's the shape of show? What does the story need? We've had 3 love scenes in a row. We need something different. Everybody was in trying to create this 2-hour experience for the audience. But that's because we had Keith as a driving force behind it, going, this is repetitive, the games are pointless, you're just giving the audience candy after candy after candy. Where's your political scene? Where's a slow scene? So, but most people see theater sports and they see 2 teams playing games, and that's the element they pick up and use. And all the other stuff is lost. And it was the other stuff that actually trained me in my storytelling and in my narrative work. Because if we were doing a scene and the story wasn't working, the judges would horn it. And you would lose the stage.
Yeah.
And what they're doing is they're protecting the actors on stage by saying, that scene's just not working. Let's get you off stage so that you don't have to live that horror. Now.
Yeah, exactly.
And for me, that taught me, I can trust my fellow players, that they're going to help get me out of sticky situations. Right? But I also learned in that moment that the scene wasn't working. And then we do notes after a show and we go, this is why it wasn't working. So my narrative skills actually got built through playing theater sports.
All right.
But we were doing it with a different agenda. When it comes to the having fun on stage, and this I think is a really interesting concept. So if you're on stage and you look like you want to be there, the audience is more relaxed. because they don't want to see stressed, anxious performers.
To see you suffering, they don't want to see that.
No, who pays to watch strangers suffer?
I bet there are a few people that in the world, a few people in the world.
A few people. But you don't say that on your advertising. Hey, come watch us suffer.
Come and see me suffering.
Watch us in self-doubt and chaos as we torment ourselves. So, we should want to be on stage. And part of wanting to be on stage and looking comfortable on stage is embracing the fact that it could fail and learning how to accept that good-naturedly. Being relaxed, trusting each other, all of these good skills.
Yes.
Now, when improvisers are really enjoying the work and enjoying each other, there is a sense of fun that's generated because it's immediate and it's and it's playful and it's dynamic. But when that's happening in the moment, the audience is also a part of that, and they feel that same joy. So if you're defining fun as that, I completely agree with you.
Yes, it's that. It's my point of view of fun is exactly that. We're on stage and we are just connected, and no one is afraid of failure because we kind of understand one another. We trust that whatever you do, no one's going to turn their back on you. No one is going to say the scene is not for me and turn the back. And we're really truthfully having fun. When I'm saying having fun, it's not that we don't care about the audience and the show disappears and it's just these guys playing. No, we're having so much fun together. And that connects with the audience in a different way. My comparison was in theater sports, the way we played it, which was game after game after game. The connection is so immediately, the reaction is so bam, and when you're telling a story, the timeline disappears. And then you're having this fun shared with the audience, and the audience gets to watch the process, but they are also part of the process. We are there having fun for them and with them. So this is the concept of fun.
Yeah, the thing that's because in theater sports, our experience, we felt like more the audience couldn't. Or tries to put yourself in bad situations. It's like kidding with the actors, and when you step up to larger narrative forms, the audience wants you to find the way and plays along with you. It's more friendly because they really want to make part of the story. Besides, just trying to picking the actors out. Now let's see if you can escape from this trap.
Yeah, I get that. I totally get that, and I see that in a lot of theater sports shows. Yeah. That wasn't what was happening at the Moose. Mm-hmm. So at the Moose, we would have the audience yell at the judges to protect the players. And so we would have a basket penalty. So if a player was rude or crude or obscene out of context of the scene, the audience could yell for basket. Or the judges could give a basket. And really, that is there to protect the improviser, because sometimes we say something and we don't realize that the audience hears it as inappropriate. So if they go, whoa, inappropriate, and you wear a basket for a minute and everybody forgets about it and we can get on with the show, it just allows me to take risks, because if I happen to step in a pile of poo, we can get rid of that bad smell. But it also gives the audience, they actually have to say, they have to have an opinion. They have to go, hang on, that crossed a line. How great to have someone in a room full of strangers go, no, wait, hang on. Because they feel a part of the show.
Exactly.
They feel it's their show.
Exactly.
And we had nights where an audience member would yell out a suggestion, and other audience members would go, basket, and we would put a basket on an audience member.
Perfect. That's the perfect answer.
But that's because, the 250 audience members and us, we were all in this same moment together.
Yeah.
And when we went up to the audience member with the basket going,
It's your turn.
yeah, usually they go, yeah, thank you, okay.
I deserve it.
Yes. So very rarely did we have an audience member who was trying to mess you up.
Yeah.
I do remember once we had a couple of guys, and they had obviously been drinking before they came to the show. And they kept yelling things out to try to embarrass us. Right?
Yeah.
And I was on a team with Tony Tutino and Dennis Cahill. And Tony asked for a suggestion, an occupation. And one of these guys yelled out gynecologist. And clearly that was to make us nervous, probably to embarrass me a little bit, being the only woman on the team, right? But because of the way we're taught to look at offers, so I was never taught yes and. We were taught accept and use the offer, which is similar but slightly different depending on how you're taught yes and.
Yeah.
So Tony hears that offer of gynecologist. And he knows, because this guy, the whole night, had been trying to embarrass us, he's got his game. And he just went, right, you want to see a scene about a gynecologist? All right, you're gonna. And I was like, oh, damn. What does that mean?
Yeah.
So... But Tony knows. Tony, somewhere in Tony's brain, he went, you're trying to embarrass Patti.
Yeah.
You're trying to objectify her.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen, bucko. So he goes, Dennis. And Dennis leaps up on stage. And he goes, so you want to be a gynecologist? Dennis goes, yeah. And he goes, great. Well, let's go on a walking tour of the female reproductive system. Right, and he turns this massive crank, which every woman in the audience who's had a pap smear just went, oh no, right? And they start going walking. He goes, well, here's this and here's that, and so do you want to go the right or the left fallopian tube? Which way do you want to go? And, they go in, and he goes, well, this is the ovary. You can see we've got some eggs here. Right? And the minute he said eggs, the other team leapt up and started becoming sperm.
Yeah.
And then there was this whole hilarious sequence of them trying to swim out of this massive internal organs to get out with sperm ramming against them, trying to... And the whole scene, I was sitting on the sideline laughing, totally safe, not being objectified.
Yeah.
Teamwork.
Right? Absolute teamwork. But it also, that scene had a lot of scientific truth. Right? Tony and Dennis are very clever. So, Tony was railing off all this stuff about, the menstrual cycle and what happens and using all these medical terms. And so it was hilarious. It was also factual.
Exactly.
It took the offer, it flipped it, kept me totally safe. And the audience was so happy that Tony just went, no, you don't get to do that to us. And for the rest of the night, the guys, they were enjoying the show. They just stopped making offers because they went, yeah, okay, we get it.
That drives us to another part, which is defending the team, the teamwork, and you shown us a very good way, a master way of doing it, and that happened in the Western. Because in Espontâneo, because you actually, we have some photos, not footage, but photos. You by directing the show live, and the audience knows that's being directed live. You kind of, being outside, you kind of understand if the scene is going well or not, what the scene needs, what the show needs, what characters should interact, because the information that has been given, it's too obvious that those characters have to meet each other, and it became the most talked show in Espontâneo, which we don't have the footage, but we have some photos. What about this? Because I kind of empathize a lot with that way of putting it in stage, directing the play live. Can you tell us something about this?
Or where did it came from, this idea of the Western, for people who haven't seen this amazing show you created, which for us it's part of the history of this festival, and it's a legend, like we were saying offline. We don't have the video of that show, so it has become a legend. The Western, directed by Patti Stiles, it's a legend on our festival. Where that idea came from of creating this?
Most of my long forms, or pretty much all of them, and a lot of my workshops tend to come out of me being a bit pissed off at improvisation, to be honest.
That's a good motivation.
Yeah, I start feeling cranky and grumpy, and it's like, why? And when I ask myself the question, why, that usually leads me to, okay, here's why. And then I go, okay, what can I do to fix that, change that, alter that, teach that, right? So the Western came out of me being frustrated with improvisers creating scene work or long forms that they would never shut up. That there wasn't any silence in the scenes. That most scene work and long forms, there's no real high stakes. People are constantly lowering the stakes, making the stakes okay, changing them. There's no moment where the audience kind of holds their breath. Yeah. Right? And that just bugged me. And a small thing, when people kill someone in an improv scene, they don't stay dead. Like, bang. Oh, you missed. No, dead.
That is that.
So when I started thinking about, and morality, there was no, within the stakes, there was no morality. Like, there was nothing driving the characters. So when I kind of looked at that on a piece of paper, I went, stillness, silence, death, morality, high stakes. I went, that's a Western. you need all of those things to tell an effective Western, because Westerns are about survival, right? And people are trying to navigate survival within their own moral compass. So that's when I started exploring how to do the Western. The directing, that very much is, again, Loose Moose and Keith. There was a lot of shows that we did where we were side coached, or we'd have a director off stage. And when we were working on developing the Life Game, one of Keith's formats, Keith would direct from off stage. And his ability to hear the offers and then be able to place you, take that offer and be able to just have you look at the scene from a different angle was such a rich experience. And a lot of it comes from, as the audience is listening or watching the scene, they automatically imagine the logical next point, right? They've already imagined that. So if I say, you know, will you marry me? And you say yes, they've already imagined the wedding. So what's the consequences of saying yes? Or what's the result of the wedding? Or what, you know, how does that open up the story instead of just be the next practical thing we need to do? But as improvisers are improvising, they're doing baby steps. And if the audience has already imagined the next step, then as director, I can help inspire you by going the next.
Exactly.
So the story is unfolding for you, anchored in what you've done, but I'm inspiring you, hopefully, if I'm doing my job, to take bigger risks, to take the next risk. And once you get those dominoes colliding, it takes care of itself, because the improvisers go, we're in, and the show just rises up, and it's a gorgeous thing to watch.
I can remember, I have a few images of a few strong scenes that were stuck with me up till today. We are now seeing a picture there. It's all about me. My ego is boosting. But it's me and Jill Bernard. And we had I think it was my really first dramatic scene on stage. I was never able, before this, to have the conscience of how being dramatic, really dramatic. How do you build up a dramatic scene? And I remember on this scene, I was being the most awful guy. I was the villain of the story, and I was the most awful guy in the whole story. And basically, in this scene, I had to convince the character, Jill's character, to have sex with me in exchange for not paying the rent. And I remember how hard it was, but how empowered I was with that character, because the direction scenes, it all moving in the background, made me feel comfortable on putting that character in that moment, which was something it wouldn't come out naturally for me. But I remember being so strong and being so empowered to do that character, because I knew the story was asking for that. Everything was moving, the pieces of the puzzle were moving, that I really had to. That was a demonstration of who, let's say, simplifying, the bad guy was. And by doing that, I felt that not only the scene between me and Jill had this emotional impact on the audience, because it was really strong. She was crying, and I was not showing one drip of emotion for her sentiment or her emotions. I was just pressuring her and being the most obnoxious guy on earth. But then in the end, it all felt, I was killed. But in the end, it was all part of the big story that was going on. And the direction from the outside, it's really something that it empowers the improviser to discover new ways and build up from characters.
Thank you for saying that, because my memories of working with Keith was when he would direct, you would feel empowered and you would feel that you had permission.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And for us to get to storylines that have difficult storylines, like a man basically blackmailing a woman for sex, that's dangerous territory.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's also factually true in these Western stories, because women were, pretty much looked at as cattle. Jill's character, she was a widow.
Mm-hmm.
She had a high moral compass, so having an evil character meet a good character is very Western story.
Yeah.
She was struggling financially and she was a widow, so she was already vulnerable, so that allows the blackmail because she's got a vulnerability to what decision she makes. Does she follow her moral or does she survive? But these are the great questions of stories. So this isn't really about blackmail and sex. This is about, she's got a choice, and there's these two choices. Which one is she going to choose?
Yeah. I remember that when we were doing the show, I thought, because Patti is there, is directing, so I'm safe.
What could be wrong?
Yeah, I'm safe because I'm doing. If I do something, Patti, you say, again. No, but it was great because for the people that don't know the show, we had some characters. I was the priest, and I had only a little thing of my personality. Was like a fake smile, like this, and then with this I construct all the character, and I remember that was really cool, and that drive me that thing through the show, and knowing that you are in the other side was great. We feel like first, we don't want to do anything wrong because no, it's Patti, it's there. I have to be but then relax and I'm safe. I'm with all good improvisers, and then we go. And I remember it was a fabulous experience and a really good show.
And that kind of game that you put on the show as at the same time, because not all people can kill each other. In that particular show, I think just one got the chance to shoot. I don't remember, but it can be that all can kill, or a few can kill, or none can kill,
or one can kill. Yeah.
But there's the ambience, like who's going to kill who, that installs in the show, and that's a game as well, because all the actors, they don't know each other. They know the actors, but they don't know the character, and if the character can kill or not. And that's a game quite defying during the play. Like, are you the guy that have the star? They have the capacity, the ability to kill someone, which is like defying. But you're a priest. Oh, but you're a nun. And
Yeah. And I love that because it keeps the improvisers really present, because you don't know.
Yeah.
So there's this little part of your brain going, can you, and watching every time someone moves.
Exactly.
It also makes, if you're going to start an argument with someone, it makes it more dangerous. Where if if you didn't, like if everybody could kill, somehow it doesn't mean anything. So people are like, oh yeah, I don't like you, bang.
Bang, yeah.
But you know, you don't know. So if someone says, I'll take that whiskey, you're like, oh, do I push back or don't I? But the fact that you're making that decision, the audience sees a character making a decision. That's storytelling. The improviser might be going, can you kill me? But the audience is going, oh, there's a risk. So that immediately starts flavoring the story. When we did the Western in Amsterdam, there was this really interesting dynamic that happened. Because the day of the show, Danielle from Colombia and Sven from Amsterdam, they kept teasing each other, going, yeah, I'm going to get a dot. I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill you. I'm coming after you. They're just teasing each other. And as it played out, Sven was sheriff and Danielle was in kind of the gang, the, you know, evil gang. And so they were, Danielle came into the bar to Sven and he was like, you know, pushing him. It's like, okay, a showdown. Okay. And so I called 2 scenes later, the showdown. And Sven walks out. And by this point, I had figured out Sven doesn't have a dot. He's the sheriff, but he can't kill.
Okay.
And that's the thing. I don't know who gets the dots, right?
Yeah, that's the thing.
point.
Yeah.
So, because I want to be improvising as well. I don't want to be plot driving. I want to be seeing what's happening. But by that point, I kind of went, oh, I don't think Sven has a dot. And I knew Daniel didn't have a dot because he was in another scene where guns were drawn and he didn't pull his gunner. But as I called the showdown scene, he turned to Felipe, who was one of his evil cohorts, and said like this and called him with him because he knew Felipe could kill. Right? So they start walking by me to get to the stage. I'm on the wing. And just as Daniel clears and steps into the light, I put my hand out and I hold Felipe back. And the reason I did that was I went, I just saw you planning. Planning and
No.
So Daniel walks out on stage and then he turns and he goes,
Oh, shit.
So we had this hilarious showdown scene of the sheriff and a baddie, but neither one of them could shoot.
What a duel.
And it was like 2 kids fighting over candy. Oh yeah, well, you. Yeah. Right? And then after that scene, because it was silly and it was ridiculous and it was fun, the next scene, I had Laura. Oh no, he didn't call Felipe. He called Laura because Laura could fight. She was a baddie. Felipe was the he was the rancher whose family had been killed by the baddies. So I had stopped Laura from going out. And in the next scene, I had Laura. She was still in the pub and she was like tying her leg because she had a gun wound. And then I sent Felipe in. And we knew Felipe could shoot. And he wanted revenge. And she was wounded.
Oh, perfect.
But when she went on stage, she forgot to take her gun. And it became this really dramatic scene of Felipe basically just shooting one ankle and watching her scream. And she's like moving on the floor. She's like crawling away from him as he just walks up and he shoots the other ankle. And it was just horrible and dramatic and just a man getting revenge for his family slowly. And at one point he put the gun in the gun wound and did that. But, you know, he had the permission to do that. He had the permission to step into that level of emotion, that level of play, because the show supported that.
Exactly.
You know, just like with your show, everybody committed to the characters in such a beautiful way. And you can see it in the images. You can see the relaxedness in the shoulders and people really taking these theatrical poses and listening and playing the world.
Yeah.
You did that. All of the improvisers did that. That wasn't me as director. That was you. And it's beautiful.
I just have to the part that you a few minutes ago that you said, like, who wants to go to see a theater play where people suffer, and now you are telling about Daniel shooting the
Now
boys.
you're seeing characters suffering. Patti, our time is flying. We will have to. This conversation will continue. It's the first part. It will continue here for sure, because you know, the doors are always open and our invitation to you is always ready. But I wanted to finish the conversation, not to finish the conversation, but to let you know two of the important things for whoever listens to this conversation of ours, two important things that are still. We have been sharing this with improvisers that were guests this year, on this online edition, and each person that came here left something with us. You left a lot more than what I'm about to say. But these two things, up till today, they echo in our brain like immediately. The first thing was the first time in 2014 when you came here, we had a lot of rules. We were playing with a lot of rules.
Yeah.
Don't do this. Don't say that. You only start a
scene like that.
A scene like that. You know him for like 10 years. You don't start a scene in the beginning, just in the middle. You know, those kind of rules that we create. And then you said something that's still for us today when we start making rules, which is when you make a rule, you're not treating the wound. You're just putting a Band-Aid. More rules you do, more Band-Aids you're doing. But you're not going to the core of why do you have this issue. You're just putting a Band-Aid, you're creating a rule. So this is always a red warning, the red lights go when we start putting rules. No, you do this, only this is the way that it works. So the Band-Aid, and then the most funniest one, but it's very precious. It's a very, very precious lesson for us, which is when you taught us to say again.
Again.
Yeah.
Again. When the scene goes wrong and we're like, no, but you know, observing it through a microscope and putting it complex and this, and because you did that and I did this. And then sometimes we lose that again. We don't have to dissect this scene. We can just do it another scene. It's not we're not solving the world problems with this scene or our lives with this scene. We just do it again. And then we get ourselves we get really. Oh my God. We get rid of our fears and our judgmental look at the scene, and then we just do it again. It's as simple as that. So this simplicity and these warning signs of what you're doing just are two of the things that are with us always, that you gave us and are with us always. A lot more you gave us, but these two, I think it's important to share with you. You are such an important part of this festival and of us as performers and as improvisers.
The book.
To finish, I want to say, I don't know if it's a premiere or not, but who cares? You just wrote a book.
Yes.
You're about to release it.
Yeah.
About to release it. We're just in the final edit. of it. So hopefully in a couple of weeks, I'll be able to do the pre-order announcement. The book is called Improvise Freely, and it's about the rules. It's, I think rules and improvisation are very destructive. Like I said, they're a Band-Aid to a wound. I do think a lot of the rules were, there's a useful piece of information underneath it, but as a rule, it becomes problematic. And so what I want to do with this book is just question the rules. Look at them for what is the value, and can we shift it from a rule to a tool, and to present an argument for why, to open up a discussion so that improvisers start going, what is the work we're creating? How do we want to create it? Why are we creating it? Is this rule useful to us? We've been told it's a rule, but why is it a rule? And does it apply to the work that we want to do? And if we use it, are we aware of how we're using it? And are we using it in a healthy way or a destructive way? So I really want to kind of build that conversation, because I think improvisation is starting to narrow in its creativity. And part of the reason for that is rules dictate behavior, and they dictate right and wrong, and they tell people you must do it this way. And nobody can define pretend. So even in that, it's like, I'm going to tell you how to pretend. No. There's cultural differences. There's life differences. There's creative differences. So I hope the book will challenge ideas, promote discussion, and create new ways of looking at the work. Really, I just want to open possibilities. So I hope it'll be useful for people.
And we're really looking forward to. When I saw it, I said, I'm going to buy it. It's still not on sale by the time you watch this video, but it will be soon. Patti, that's our time. We won't take any more of your time. We already ruined your breakfast. So.
Not at all. You added a beautiful Portuguese tart to my day.
Oh, thank you so much. We give you a hug to the other side of the. It's not even the other side of the world. It's the opposite side of the world.
A hug and the pastel de nata for your breakfast.
And can't wait to see you.
We miss you, Patti.
Can't wait to see you again, presentially, you, and touch you and have you here.
Next year!
Thank you so much. A big, big hug, and wish you all the best. And thank you for being here.
Thank you. I just want to say one small thing.
Of course. Take all the time.
When you look back at this video, I want you to watch, because the two of you sitting on the couch, you mirrored your body language for most of the conversation. Really fascinating. Most of the times you were like in the exact same position. Just have a look at that. It's very fun.
Choreography.
It's a sign of comfort, but it was just really interesting. Because one of you would move and the other one would move, and you kept copying each other. And I want to say a big thank you for inviting me and including me, not just for this festival and the great gift that you're giving to improvisers all over the world, to open this festival up for people for free, to allow people to take the workshops, to bring joy into people's COVID life. It's such a great gift. Thank you for doing that. And thank you for the all 10 festivals you've done. I know this is Festival X, but it is still a celebration of the achievement that you've done. So happy 10th anniversary, and I just love you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Patti. Big hug, big kiss.
It's so much
it meant a lot to us to have you here. Thank you so much. Big hug.
Cheers.
Cheers. See
Bye-bye.
you soon.
And it was Patti Stiles. E foi a Patti Stiles. E é assim que nós encerramos o Espontâneo. É assim que acaba o espontâneo.
É assim.
Não podia acabar de melhor maneira.
Quem tiver a ver isto de forma desordenada, ainda tem mais coisas para ver. Não é bem o final.
Se começarem por aqui, também podem voltar para trás.
Porque isto vai ficar sempre disponível para verem, reverem, quando quiserem.
Para todo sempre.
Para toda a eternidade.
Mas em termos cronológicos, de facto, esta foi a última conversa do espontâneo X. Outras haverá mais.
Quer dizer incógnitas, queria dizer o 10º ano que não é, e para o ano é que vai ser.
Para o ano é, sim, a verdadeira celebração dos 10 anos do espontâneo. Tudo isto porquê? Porque, na verdade, o teatro acontece onde? No teatro. Acontece num palco, acontece com pessoas sentadas
lá e nós também.
Sentadas ou em pé, também podem estar em pé.
Desde que haja pessoinhas.
Exatamente.
E nós no mesmo sítio.
Há ali uma comunhão única que não acontece aqui. Nós tentámos, de alguma
energia
maneira...
especial que só se está lá.
Tentámos, de alguma maneira, manter viva a chama linda, do espontâneo, num ano de olhar para trás, de refletir, de fazer balanços e de conhecer novas pessoas, de rever pessoas que não víamos há muito tempo, de levantar questões e de fazer...
E descobrir novas coisas e que se calhar algumas descobrimos aqui que vão ficar para...
Olha, eu descobri que vou levar este sofá para casa.
Não é nada mal.
Que isto foram aqui uma série de dias sentado aqui, já me habituei.
Estávamos a ficar iguais nos movimentos, deve ser disso.
É isto, vocês levam isto para a vossa casa.
Exatamente.
Moram juntos, não moram?
Claro.
Agora ficaram a morar
Ficámos a morar.
Agora ficámos. Não sabíamos, mas a partir de hoje...
Muito bem.
Durante o espontâneo foi.
E é assim que acontece o espontâneo e que se encerra o espontâneo neste segmento fusível extra. Isto é o extra.
Extra!
Terminamos o espontâneo assim, esperamos para o ano 2022 celebrar então o 10º aniversário do
Podemos
espontâneo.
fazer um cliffhangers que nós vamos estar também com os espetáculos em breve. Podemos já dizer alguma coisa?
Eu não sei quando é que as pessoas vão ver isto. Se calhar quando as pessoas virem dizer eram aqueles que fizeram aquele espetáculo.
Ou já aconteceu ou vai acontecer.
Então, bom. É verdade, nós instantâneos, agora que nos despedimos do espontâneo e encerramos, vamos estar...
Dia 2 de junho. Dia 2 de julho.
2 de julho no Centro Cultural Olga Cadaval. Depois, lá mais para a frente...
Isto é 2021, caso vocês estejam a ver.
Exato,
é 2049, é 2021. Agora...
Aconteceu um espetáculo no Olga Cadaval no dia 2 de julho de 2021. Depois, lá mais para a frente, em outubro...
25 de setembro e 26 de setembro, estreamos...
ainda bem que pensava que era outro dia que mudar a agenda.
Estreia.
Um novo espetáculo dos instantâneos.
Chamado Casulo, que depois tem mais uma sessão no dia 4 de outubro. Estreia em Lisboa e depois vai para...
Também parece que vamos estar aí com o To Be or Not To Be Shakespeare.
E voltamos também com o To Be or Not To Be Shakespeare à Quinta da Regaleira, um clássico.
Now it's called Bard.
É verdade, agora chama-se Bard. A gente deu-lhe ali uma pinta dela.
Exato, tem ali uma...
Meteu-lhe uns tubos novos e um tubo de escape.
Um aileron.
Assim. Está impecável. Meus senhores, foi um enorme prazer fazer isto para vocês. Foi um enorme prazer fazer isto para nós. Queremos agradecer a toda a equipa técnica
Porque atrás daqui estão
atrás de um bom espontâneo.
Aqui atrás.
Já vai.
Atrás de um espontâneo existe sempre uma equipa técnica que levou estas emissões até vós. Tivemos Fábio Ventura, João Frazão e mais uma série de pessoas que agora não me lembro o nome. Mas...
depois vai aparecer na ficha técnica.
Vai aparecer na ficha técnica, claro. Tivemos uma série de pessoas que nos conseguiram levar até vocês, dentro dos vossos telemóveis, de televisões ou onde quer que estejam a ver as nossas
caras. Pode haver pessoas em 2079, tipo 100 anos depois da
Ainda estás a pensar nisso? Voltaremos. É assim que fecha o espontâneo X. Muito obrigado a todos. Até a próxima.